Prologue, Ciel Phantom Hive. The first day I saw my son with my wife, Rachel, in the hospital on that cold, crisp December day, I melted like ice in a warm room. He looks just like me. He looks so handsome. What should we name him? I hear my wife respond weakly how about Earl Ciel Phantom Hive. We will always call him by his middle name. I wanted to cry because he was our first son and he was so perfect. He just was so beautiful. He was I have no words. He's my baby and I don't want anything to happen to him. Nothing at all. I will protect him till the day I am 6 feet in the ground. That day, taking my wife and my child home was such a blessing. Having my son being so healthy and able to come home today, all bundled up in blankets and a hat. I watched as my wife slept. As I held my child close, I gave him his evening bottle to help warm him. As we continued to the manor, the carriage was cold, so I took my coat off and covered my wife up, holding Ciel close, keeping him warm, using my body heat. Chapter 1, Dreamland. I set the small child into his crib. As my wife awaited for me to help her in. I stepped out, picked her up like a bride, and carried her into her room and put her on the bed, removing her jacket. I pulled the warm covers over her, allowing her to warm up without disturbing her from her slumber. I wrote a note and put it on the side table for her to view later when she awakes. I walked downstairs, shivering, as I requested Tanaka to fetch me warm tea and a blanket. He quickly got the items I requested, and I dismissed him. I went to Ciel's room, picked him up, walked to the couch in the living room. I sat warming him and sipped some of my Earl Grey tea. An hour later, Rachel wakes up, and I hear the stir from upstairs. I request Tanaka to go check on her. He did, always following my every request. He comes, following her down, helping her down lightly, holding her arms to help her keep balance. She walked over, sat down beside Ciel, and I kissed her forehead and passed Ciel to her. You did a great job today and this past year. You're the best wife a man could ever have. She replied, You're the best husband a woman could ever have. She places her head on my shoulder. I place my hand on her back and rub her back. I know this is hard for you, having this baby. I mean, it was a good 9 to 11 months of hard work. Then you have an even harder time when he was on the way to be delivered. I look over at her, and she had fallen asleep. I fall asleep, her head on my lap, and Ciel in my arms. I wake up alone in what looks like my manor, engulfed in flames. I hear the yelling of my son. I yell back, Get out of here, as a support beam falls onto me. I watch as my son drops to his knees and cries. I yell, Ciel, catch, as I pull the family ring and throw it to him. He catches it and stands yelling back, Dad, I will save you. I call back, Get out, Ciel. Now, you have no more time. Please, get out of the manor, for you die too. Please make me proud. I will watch over you from heaven, Ciel. It's not my time, not yours. Go. I watch as he runs out of the building. I wake up and quickly look around. Oh, God. Oh, thank God. This didn't actually happen. I look down to see my son Ciel is still a baby. I look at my wife, seeing that I managed to disturb her from her slumber. Sorry, sweetie. I had a nightmare. I saw her sweet, soft-hearted smile. Do you want to go to bed, honey? She asks me. I respond, "Sure, sweetie," before I stand and help her to her room, holding CL. I put CL in his night crib and lay down with my wife and fell asleep. I awoke in the manor. I look around in search of something wrong. I see a butler, dressed in a white button-up, black tie, a black and purple vest, a tailcoat buttoned to perfection, with a pocket watch chain hanging from the buttoned button, a pair of black dress pants, white gloves, black high socks, and black dress shoes. I noticed that he was wearing the Phantom Hive emblem, which showed he was a Phantom Hive servant. I followed him to what I saw as Ciel's room. I followed him, watching as he looked at my boy in his nightshirt. The words that came out of my son's mouth, I never expected him to say. He opened both eyes as he said, "Sebastian, I order you, dress me." I watched. I looked away when I saw the purple pentagram in his left eye. I saw Sebastian had the exact same pentagram marking on his left hand. I watched as Sebastian removed the perfectly buttoned-up jacket, rolled up his sleeves, and pulled off his gloves. In horror, I watched the butler wasn't really wearing a properly formed vest. I drooled a little as I teared up, as I realized I wasn't there for my little boy. I thought to myself, it was my fault. I wasn't there for him, and that he grew up even quicker without me. No smile. There was no facial expression. For a facial expression was a blank stare that gazed at Sebastian as he spoke about the day's plans. I felt myself tearing up He is a grown up at the age 14. He is like this because of the fire and the madman. I felt the dream form into a type of a flash, a memory of Ciel's in the future. He was getting pinned down. There was a madman with a branding stick, like they used on cattle when they were claimed livestock. I watched in horror as the man stabbed my little boy, until a demon-looking figure walked in and saved him. My son took his hand, and his eye marked with the pentagram, and the blood ran down his face. The figure was caught in the action and appeared as a normal butler. The madman that was harming my son punched him down, triggering his asthma. The butler quickly went to him and attacked the man, throwing him to the floor and grabbing my little boy and hugging him as he wheezed and drooled everywhere. The butler asked, "What shall you call me, master?" My son managed, looking up at the tall man in a stuttering tone. "Sebastian," he said with a strained and panicked voice. When he caught his breath, he leaned into the tall butler when he picked him up, and then they disappeared along with the dream. I woke up with a loud gasp, but quickly quieted as I heard my wife singing to the wailing child. I looked at my wife and said, "Honey, did I disturb Ciel?" She replied, "I'm not sure. You were a bit restless, and you talked in your sleep. You also cried your eyes out. That is so weird, but I was having a nightmare about Ciel's future. I'm going to sleep now," I replied. I saw her smile as Ciel quieted and came back to bed. She hugged me as I slept to attempt to protect me from the nightmares. Chapter 2. Love to Ashes. "Happy 10th birthday, Ciel," his loud cousin Elizabeth yelled. I looked at Lizzie. "Hey, sweetie, go see Ciel. He has something to tell you." I watched as the boy walked up to Lizzie and kneeled down. He looked at her in the face and said, Elizabeth Middleford, will you take my hand in marriage?" I watched as his face, unsure about the decision I made for him. He seemed nervous at the age, holding the small velvet box that held the diamond ring. I noticed Lizzie blush a deep red and yell excitedly, "Yes, C.L. Phantomhive, I will marry you!" I got the "thanks a lot, Dad" look as he was squeezed half to death by her death-perceiving hug. I grinned as I looked back and thought to myself, he really needs to learn how to treat a lady. "CL, come see me for a moment, my son. You are going to start dance lessons immediately. You will need to be proper to a lady. Also, we will get the seamstress to make you proper clothing. You need to also know how to flatter a lady like Elizabeth. CL, you need to treat her right, okay, sweetheart?" I hear him reply back, "Yes, sir, I will learn so well that she will get the utmost respect that a lady will receive." I look at him closely and say, "Now, go play." I watch as the boy runs off to play with Elizabeth. Later that night, I thanked the Middlefords for coming that night and walked in the dining hall. I sat down with my wife and I watched my boy play. I smelt smoke, then saw flames. I thought to myself to save CL and my wife Rachel. I screamed to CL as the support fiend fell. I screamed for him to get out after I threw the family ring to him. He screams, "Mommy, Daddy, I love you," as he falls to his knees and starts crying. I watch as Tanaka runs in and grabs him. I look at Tanaka and yell, "Watch over CL. Keep my boy safe. Tell him that Rachel and I love him and that we never will ever stop loving him." I yell one last phrase to him, "This is an order," when I felt myself burning in the flames. I grab my wife's hand. I kiss her as we pass. I look into the light as I kiss her. I feel my life getting ripped from me. My body went limp, and I burned to ashes. In spirit, I say, ashes to ashes, blood baths to freedom, love to hate, hate to love. Don't make this fate my son's. May my son's fate be protected from being rewritten or touched. Someone will love my boy, and it's not Elizabeth. She will love someone else, someone who loves her, who has gone through the same loss as someone they loved. The only one he loved, his little brother, lost to murder, treason, and rape. Lost to a fire, like my wife and I. He will be the one to be wed to her, the only one. My son doesn't realize he loves a butler in his future without knowing. He will grow to love him, though he is a demon. Our family will last forever and 1,000 years and will be trusted. Through many may think my family is dead. We are still here in this place. We lay upon our death at this very place to never leave, until someone releases us from their mourning and grief. My son facing till the end, till he says, checkmate.